Picture this: 12 mighty forts stretching across Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu, each stone whispering the legacy of Shivaji Maharaj. This week, UNESCO added the Maratha military landscapes to its World Heritage List, a move that's far from just symbolic. But why does this matter beyond tourism? Fortification and decentralized command, two terms at the core of military architecture, shaped how the Marathas defended their land. Imagine if every region had its own mini-Pentagon, and you'll grasp the strategic genius here. Now, you might be thinking, isn't this just about old walls? Not at all! These structures represent a living blueprint for indigenous engineering, one that still influences India's defense mindset. Let me tell you a story. When British officers first encountered these forts, their cannonballs bounced harmlessly off the zigzagging ramparts. That's adaptive design in action. Ultimately, as heritage politics heat up globally, this UNESCO nod isn't just about the past. It's a potent reminder of how architecture fuels national pride and strategic thinking today. Imagine embarking on a sacred journey, then passing through layers of surveillance, drones overhead, and 500 troops on standby. Operation SHIVA 2025 is not your average security drill for the Amarnath Yatra. The Indian Army's deployment of anti-drone technology and real-time surveillance grids brings two terms to the forefront: force multiplication and counter-terrorism. It's faith and high-tech defense, intertwined like never before. Now, you might ask, does this transform worship into a battlefield? That's the tension balancing religious freedom with state security. Let me paint a scene: pilgrims praying under watchful digital eyes. For some, it's reassuring. For others, it's unnerving. The line between sanctuary and siege blurs. In the end, Operation SHIVA 2025 spotlights a new normal, where sacred traditions and national defense must coexist, raising urgent questions about privacy, faith, and the reach of modern surveillance. Can a place of horror transform into a beacon for global justice? That's the heart of Cambodia's UNESCO inscription of Tuol Sleng, Choeung Ek, and M13 once epicenters of genocide, now sites of memory and resistance. When we talk about trauma-informed storytelling and transitional justice, these are more than buzzwords. They're frameworks for facing a past where over 1.7 million lives were lost. You might wonder, why memorialize such pain? The answer is simple yet profound. Remembrance is a bulwark against denial and historical erasure. Let me tell you a story. Survivors now guide visitors through Tuol Sleng, their voices trembling but unwavering. Their testimony transforms a prison into a classroom for humanity. Ultimately, these recognitions force the world to confront complicity and champion human rights, proving that sometimes memory is the strongest form of resistance. What happens when the map you trust turns out to be a mirage? In Texas, outdated FEMA flood maps missed the risk that killed 27 at Camp Mystic. Terms like hydrological modeling and risk assessments sound dry, but their consequences are anything but. When real-time rainfall overwhelmed static data, the system cracked. Now, you might be thinking, aren't these government agencies supposed to keep us safe? That's the conflict: institutional complacency versus the unpredictable chaos of climate change. I spoke with a local parent who said, "We checked the maps. We thought we were safe." It's a gut punch, proof that resilience isn't just about sandbags, but better data. The takeaway? Disaster response must evolve, integrating live data and community feedback to close the fatal gap between models and reality. Imagine a world where life-saving research is left unfinished. That's the ripple effect from over $1 billion slashed from NIH grants, especially for studies on sickle cell disease and Black infant mortality. Terms like health disparities and funding pipelines aren't just jargon, they're lifelines for marginalized communities. When those pipelines dry up, so does hope. Now, you might ask, is this just bureaucratic belt-tightening? No, it's a politicized battle over whose lives get prioritized in science. Let me share. Dr. Williams, a lead researcher, told me, our program was the only one serving rural Black families. Without funding, those babies lose their best shot. The resolution? Public outcry and advocacy can sometimes restore funding, but the underlying question remains: who decides which stories and which lives are worth the investment? This week, President Trump announced sweeping 30% tariffs on goods from Mexico and the EU, a move set to ripple across markets and kitchens alike. Let's break down two terms, protectionism and counter-tariffs. Think of trade as a giant game of Jenga. One block moves and the whole tower trembles. Now you're probably wondering, will this really hit my wallet? Absolutely. Economists warn of inflationary spiral as costs work their way from factory to checkout line. A small business owner I spoke with said, "Our supply chain is global. These tariffs mean layoffs, plain and simple." In the end, trade wars aren't just about geopolitics, they're about the price of your groceries and the future of economic stability. Imagine harnessing sunlight on water instead of land. That's the vision behind Europe's largest floating solar farm, now live in France, spanning 250 acres of reclaimed quarry. Two terms, photovoltaic panels and adaptive infrastructure. Think of these panels as lily pads soaking up energy and freeing up valuable land for other uses. Now, you might ask, why go floating? The answer, it cools the panels, improves efficiency, and prevents water evaporation, a triple win for sustainability. Let me tell you a story. Local farmers, once skeptical, now see the site as a symbol of hope, proof that dead land can power a green future. In sum, floating solar success in France could inspire cities worldwide to rethink both energy and the environment, turning yesterday's wastelands into tomorrow's powerhouses. Picture a convoy of silent, zero-emission trucks rolling through India's highways. The government's new electric truck incentive scheme is set to electrify freight logistics. Let's unpack two terms, vehicle electrification and charging infrastructure. Imagine replacing diesel's toxic trail with clean, high-voltage refueling stations. Now, you might be skeptical. Can heavy-duty EVs really handle India's roads? The answer lies in subsidies and rapid tech innovation, making green transit viable, not just visionary. A logistics manager told me, "We're watching battery range and charging speed. If those deliver, the switch is a no-brainer." Bottom line, India's EV freight push isn't just about clean air, it's a glimpse into a decarbonized, future-ready supply chain for the world's fifth largest economy. What does it take to bring a species back from the brink? Look no further than Maryland's bald eagle population soaring from near extinction to a conservation triumph. Let's talk about habitat restoration and population monitoring, two pillars of ecological stewardship. Picture scientists tracking nesting sites year after year, like guardians of a national treasure. Now, you might wonder, why do eagles matter so much? They're more than a symbol, they're an indicator of ecosystem health. When eagles thrive, wetlands and rivers do too. Let me tell you a story, a local school trip to a riverside blind, where a child gasped, "It's like seeing freedom in flight. That's the emotional punch behind the science." In the end, the bald eagle's return shows what happens when policy, science, and public will unite, reminding us that recovery, though fragile, is possible. Sometimes, hope comes in the form of a lemonade stand. In Texas, kids raised thousands for flood relief after tragedy struck their community. This is more than charity, it's civic engagement and micro-philanthropy in action. Imagine children becoming first responders, one cup at a time. Now you might be thinking, do small efforts really matter? Absolutely. These stands sparked a viral chain, inspiring adults and other towns to pitch in. Let me share. One parent told me, "My child learned more about empathy in a week than I could teach in a year." That's grassroots resilience at its core. Ultimately, these young entrepreneurs remind us that disaster recovery isn't just about government aid, it's about neighbors, hope, and the power of community-driven action. What happens when adversity turns into advocacy? Meet the teen siblings who raised $620,000 for cancer research in just 7 weeks, one of them fighting leukemia themselves. Let's highlight two ideas: peer-to-peer fundraising and narrative mobilization. Think of their campaign as a digital bonfire. Each share fuels another donation. Now, you might ask, can stories really move mountains? In this case, yes. The family's honesty and vulnerability went viral, transforming private struggle into public movement. A supporter told me, "I donated because I saw myself in their story. That's the connective tissue between personal pain and collective hope. In the end, this campaign is about more than dollars. It's a testament to how youth, technology, and storytelling can spark real-world change. How does a baby hippo capture the world's heart? Mudung, now one, is more than a zoo resident. She's a viral symbol of joy, resilience, and shared humanity. Let's discuss anthropomorphism and emotional contagion. When we project human feelings onto animals, it's not just cute, it's a form of digital empathy. You might be thinking, why do we care so much about a hippo? Simple. In a world of headlines and stress, Mudung offers a safe space for connection and hope. A fan told me, watching her grow makes me believe in second chances. That's social media at its best, turning pixels into purpose. Ultimately, the hippo effect reminds us that animals can be both mascots and mirrors, reflecting what we crave most: innocence, perseverance, and unity. Wind in your hair, engine roaring, that's the spirit celebrated on National Motorcycle Day. But beyond adrenaline, motorcycles represent mobility, therapy, and Americana. Terms like rider rehabilitation and two-wheel culture come to mind. For veterans, bikes are more than transport. They're tools for healing PTSD and reclaiming independence. You might wonder, is it just about rebellion? Far from it. For many, riding is a way to process trauma and find community on the open road. Let me share. A veteran told me, on my bike, I'm not broken, I'm free. That's the therapeutic power echoing across highways today. So, as you see parades and hear engines, remember, National Motorcycle Day is about more than machines. It's a celebration of resilience, unity, and the healing journey. On World Population Day, the numbers 8 billion and counting mask deeper stories of migration, aging, and power. Let's break down demographic transition and population pyramid. Imagine a society where more elders than children tip the scales, challenging everything from healthcare to labor markets. Now, you might ask, is population growth always a crisis? Not necessarily. It's about how resources and opportunities are shared, not just headcounts. A UN official told me, the politics of birth rates shape global influence. That's why today's debates over migration and fertility matter for tomorrow's power dynamics. Ultimately, World Population Day is a call to action reminding us that equity and sustainability are inseparable from demographic realities. Breakups and faith, two words rarely paired. Yet, break off that relationship is trending as a teen devotional theme, blending spiritual insight with psychological boundaries. Let's unpack emotional intelligence and spiritual discernment. Imagine teaching youth that true worth isn't tied to romance, but rooted in identity and purpose. Now, you might be thinking, is faith really relevant in relationships? For many teens, it's the anchor that helps them navigate heartbreak and set healthy limits. A youth pastor told me, sometimes, holy ghosting is the healthiest choice. That's a modern twist on ancient wisdom. In closing, this devotional trend is about empowering young people, equipping them to value themselves and set boundaries, both emotionally and spiritually.